What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. How was your guys' weekend, by the way? You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. I'm the host, Haize, of this lovely and beautiful program. On today's episode, we'll be talking about the second Summer League game for the Chicago Bulls, an update on the two-way contracts that the Chicago Bulls will carry going into next season. We'll also talk about Sam Smith and Lonzo Ball update we've all been waiting to hear. And lastly, we'll be talking about Ja Morant saying he would cook MJ? MJ? We'll get into all that and more on today's Chicago Bulls Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans. So hopping right in. So this is why Summer League always should be taken with a grain of salt, right? And I know that for some fans that don't necessarily always watch Summer League, or some fans who are just excited about basketball, excited about picks, excited about Marko Simonovic, Dalen Terry, Justin Lewis, things like that, it can be overrated some. And while Summer League is there for kind of an evaluation of talent, it's not necessarily a one-for-one on how players are going to perform in the NBA. Now, after the first Summer League game, there are a lot of people, after I did the video, that were saying that, hey, Marko is the next one up. Now, the Bulls get blown out in the second Summer League game against the New York Knicks team. We're just going to go over some of these stats, which were horrendous for most of the Bulls players, the ones of importance, right? And so the ones that I'll look at specifically are Marko, Justin Lewis, Malcolm Hill, and Dalen Terry. Now, that's because they're all going to be on this team or have contracts in one shape, form, or another, which we'll talk about in the second segment. But let's just go over the stat lines for them. Marko Simonovic, 0 for 5 shooting, only 1 point, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. Now, that is a large from his over 20 points and double-digit rebounds in the first Summer League game. But still, even in this game, some of the things that we were looking for from Marko Simonovic, just how he handles contact, how that size, things like that. He had a terrible shooting night, as did most of this team. That's why they got blown out and they were down by 30 points throughout most of this game. But with that being said, that's Marko's stat line. Justin Lewis in this game was 3 for 6 shooting, 7 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. Not the worst, especially when it comes to the Summer League game, but again, not the best either. Malcolm Hill, who had a big game in Summer League game 1 as well, kind of solidifying him, getting him that last two-way contract, which we'll talk about. 2 for 10, 5 points, 2 rebounds. That's it. And then Dalen Terry, our 18th overall pick, 3 for 7, 13 points, 6 for 8 free throws, 1 rebound, 3 assists, and 7 turnovers in this game. He also had a flagrant foul call. And I loved what he said afterwards, that he was trying to stop them from scoring. But with that being said, the things that you're getting from this game aren't necessarily how their skills are going to translate one for one in the NBA. So anyone calling Dalen Terry a bust is just sensationalizing, or they're just an idiot. So let's not get to doing that. But the one thing with Dalen Terry, and this is what I did say even before the first Summer League game, is that it's not necessarily about scoring numbers, right? Even though he did score in double digits, 13 points, not a good percentage at 3 for 7, not terrible either though. But with that being said, Dalen Terry's, if he does get into the rotation and crack that rotation for the Chicago Bulls this season and gets 8-10 minutes per game, it's going to be because of his ability to run the floor. It's going to be because of defense. It's going to be because of the athleticism, things like that. So, just looking at it, yeah, it wasn't the best game, right? And the players that we want to see things from didn't really show us very much at all. But the thing is, like with Justin Lewis, for example, you still see Justin Lewis's decision-making, which, yeah, his shot was 3 for 6, 50% is not terrible, right? But his decision-making on both the offense and defensive side of the ball, the way that he moves without the ball, the way that he's in position, the correct position usually defensively, gives some things to work on and see. Now, again, better talent, much better talent in the NBA. Justin Lewis is on a two-way deal, so we'll see how much we see of him for the season. The two players that we know for sure, or at least think, because, we hope that Marko's not going to get another G League assignment, is going to be Dalen Terry and Marko Simonovic. I already talked about Dalen, I already talked about Marko some as well. I still think that both these guys are doing enough to be more so on the main roster this season. We'll see if Dalen Terry gets a G League stint or not, but I really do think that Dalen Terry is going to show enough, especially defensively, that he may go ahead and crack that rotation early, considering that the Bulls may need some help on the wing. And I think Dalen Terry's versatility, too, may be something that gets him some minutes early. The fact that he can play between the 1 and the 3, right? And we'll see what that ends up shaping up for him over the course of his career as he settles into a position. But one of the things I've always compared Dalen Terry to is that he's going to be like a young first couple of years in the league, Wesley Matthews, where Wesley Matthews played everything from point guard to the three. And that was before the switchability. That was before positionless basketball became a really big thing. So I do think that Dalen Terry, if he shows, puts on a little bit of weight and things like that, can play between 1 and 3. So we'll see if he cracks that rotation. But, with that being said, one of the things that we've talked about early in the Summer League is that who was going to get that last deal. And we actually put up a poll on that I'm actually going to read and get into before we even get into the news. But one of the polls that I dropped last week, in one of my last videos last week, was who's going to be cut out of that. The players with the, and I didn't even think about a camp deal, but there were, you can only have two-way player contracts on the roster per season. And at that point in time, the Bulls had 3 two-way contracts. They extended a two-way contract offer to Malcolm Hill, a qualifying offer, and then they also signed Javon Freeman-Liberty and Justin Lewis to two-way deals at that time. So I asked, which player would be cut before the start of the season? Malcolm Hill won that with 53% of the vote. Javon Freeman-Liberty, the next one up, with 40% of the vote, and then Justin Lewis had 7% of that vote. And we now know what's going to happen with that, right? Javon Freeman-Liberty has been converted to a camp deal, meaning that he's probably going to end up on the G League team. They're bringing him in during training camp, but he's probably going to end up on that G League team, which leaves Malcolm Hill and Justin Lewis to be the Bulls' two-way players. Now, that's interesting in a couple of different ways. Both these players have some size, right? Both of them can come in and play at a position of need for the Chicago Bulls where they probably don't have as much depth as the guard position. So that kind of makes sense there. Malcolm Hill balled out in that first Summer League game, not as much in the second Summer League game. And Javon Freeman-Liberty showed some things, but because the Bulls are so deep at that point guard position, it kind of makes sense that, the Bulls have moved on, and not moved on completely because they didn't cut him. So technically, everybody in that poll was right and wrong. But, Javon Freeman-Liberty, camp deal. He's probably going to be in that G League team. He's probably going to replace Devin Dotson, who's no longer going to be on the Chicago Bulls G League team. So be on the lookout for that. I'll still be watching the Bulls G League games. I didn't do much coverage on the G League games last season just because it was my first year having this channel. I kind of was focused in on a rhythm. So maybe I'll do a little bit more coverage on the G League. If you guys do want it, let me know. I may cover that more so on the membership tab, which we do have memberships now on that. But if you guys are interested in any G League coverage, not daily or anything, but maybe do it once a week, maybe Sundays, catch up on all the goings on in G League, something like that, because we don't typically release episodes Sundays. Let me know what you guys think about that down below. But let's get into the news. One of the major pieces of news that kind of came up and slipped under the radar with this, and it's not solid news, right? There's a lot of speculative things in it, but it is the most positive update we've had about Lonzo Ball in a while. So via Sam Smith, this comes from Sam Smith, who asked the Chicago Bulls point guard about what was going on with him, and this was the exact quote. He didn't want to do any interviews to detract from the Summer League team, but he did smile and say he was doing well and moved away swiftly. That is when he was asked if he was going to be ready by the start of the season. So the most positive news that we've gotten so far, the fact that Lonzo is, in the Summer League, down there in the Summer League, the fact that he's moving around, things like that, we've gotten more and more. It's progressively seeming to get that way. I did speculate that when we signed Goran Dragic, was that a sign that maybe Lonzo Ball was not going to be ready by the start of the season? Like I said, nothing super. I don't want to act like it's a for sure thing at this point, but it's probably the best news. And the fact that it came from Lonzo himself, right? Not through his father, not through some reporters speculating on things they said, not from a mysterious video posted to social media. This was Lonzo Ball reacting to being asked the direct question if he was going to be ready by the start of the season. The fact that he smiled and said he didn't want to detract from the Summer League team, that may tell us that coming up here shortly, we're going to get an announcement that Lonzo Ball is going to be ready to go by the start of training camp. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you take this as positive news? Do you think Lonzo is going to be ready? And how does that change the outlook for you guys on the Chicago Bulls season? Like I've said before, I don't think we wouldn't have suffered hugely if we didn't have Ayo Dosunmu ended up being our starting point guard to start the season. But the Chicago Bulls team is a better team with Lonzo Ball on the team. And I do want to see Billy Donovan use the members of this roster a little bit better than what he did last year, unlock a little bit more of them with a more versatile offensive scheme. But with that being said, this team was a much better team with Lonzo Ball on it. And I get Ayo's great, and Ayo should be a Chicago Bull for a very long time when we lock him into an extension next summer. But Lonzo Ball helps this team reach another level, especially defensively, especially in transition, especially with his three-point shooting. I want to see his decision-making a little bit more as well. Lonzo Ball takes this team to that next level, period. I love Ayo Dosunmu. Ayo is not on Lonzo Ball's level yet. We'll see if he gets there, but he's not on that level yet. He doesn't offer what Lonzo Ball offers, especially off the ball defense and on the ball defense, right? He's good at both. And the way that Lonzo Ball, how much better of a defender Zach LaVine was with Lonzo out there with Lonzo's communication. Ayo just doesn't have that form of reference yet, and he hasn't been in the league long enough to really have that communication side of things down. Lonzo Ball brings that every single day. Every single day. So having Lonzo Ball ready to go by the start of training camp, letting this full team get a full training camp together before heading into preseason is going to be so huge. It could be so huge for this team being able to hit on that stride that kind of started last season off with just hitting the ground running. We need Lonzo Ball to do that. Hopefully he's there healthy. And like I said, it's good to have a positive update and not something, it's still speculative, right? It's still reading between the lines, but it's good to have something coming from Lonzo directly in this case. But let's go ahead and get ready to go into our last topic for today's show. And that's in an interview with Taylor Rooks. Ja Morant was asked about MJ, and he said that he would cook MJ. I love the confidence. I love Ja Morant overall. Like, I have some issues with some of the things off the court with him referring to himself as Black Jesus, now some things like this. But one of the things with Ja Morant is just his confidence, but he backs it up on the court. And I fully do believe that he thinks he'll do that. But let's be clear here. Michael Jordan would completely school and toy with Ja Morant. All that confidence would be completely shot in the foot when it's all said and done after he plays against Michael Jordan, especially a prime Michael Jordan. But let's not even give him prime Michael Jordan. I'm giving first 2 years in the league, Michael Jordan would cook Ja Morant. And especially not prime. You talking about prime MJ and Ja Morant? Come on, I love Ja, right? I love Ja. But Mike is taller, more athletic, in my opinion, a better defender, more intense, and he plays those mind games. I don't know if Ja Morant is quite built for the mind games MJ would play with him, right? I don't think so. MJ would probably let Ja Morant, and I said this over on Locked on Bulls as well, score probably the first 2 baskets of them playing one-on-one. Just to allow that, just so he can let Ja Morant's confidence build up so he can crush it. That's the level of player that we're talking about. That's the type of player that we're talking about Michael Jordan being, the competitiveness of Michael Jordan. And then he would go on to completely sweep everything after that point, right? Ja Morant would be able to say, I got 2 buckets against MJ, but MJ would absolutely destroy Ja Morant, right? Take him into the post, dance around him. Like I talked about DeMar DeRozan dancing around on KD at one point. Like, Michael Jordan would take Ja to the post, hit a couple of spin moves, some post pull-up jump. Like, it would be a massacre. But let me know what you guys think about that down below. What do you think? Who do you think would win in a one-on-one game against Ja Morant and Michael Jordan? Come on, Ja. Like, I love Ja. Don't get me wrong. But one of the interesting conversations that we got into over on Locked on Bulls that I do want to bring over here and talking about this topic, and I probably put it up as a poll too. But looking at the next wave of players that we have right now, right, is that who, once LeBron, KD start going away or declining, who's the next face of the NBA? Now, the 3 players that I mentioned, I do think Ja Morant could be that. And when I say face of the NBA, I mean one of the clear biggest stars in the NBA, but also somebody who has the marketability, the personality that's marketable, that can help them be kind of that face of the league and advertisement, things like that. I think Ja Morant's there. I look at, even though it's very early into his career, I think Anthony Edwards absolutely has that potential. I'm super high on Anthony Edwards. Let me be clear here. Let me preface this. Everybody has their player that they just think is it, and Anthony Edwards is it to me. Like, it sucks that he's down in Minnesota, and we'll see what type of marketability he has playing in a city like Minnesota, because they would definitely have to be perennial championship contenders for that to really get there, because of Minnesota. Like, we saw KG down in Minnesota, and he really wasn't marketed, and he was one of the best players in the NBA. But with that being said, Anthony Edwards, I look at him and I say that that's a player that has the talent, the personality, everything to be one day one of the faces of the league. I do think that may have to come via either leaving Minnesota or them just being so good. Pat mentioned Luka Doncic, who I do think absolutely has that chance and that possibility as well. And then Zion Williamson came up. And the one thing that I found interesting about that is that looking at Zion's skill set and what he's able to do on the court when he's healthy, absolutely. But is he going to be able to stay healthy enough to get to that level? But, those are kind of the 4 players that I look at there. I know I'm probably missing somebody. Let me know down below who do you think is a player that, as this current guard of best players in the NBA kind of fade off, who do you think has the chance to be one of the biggest stars in the NBA and kind of be the face of that league? Somebody who not only plays on the court, gets to the playoffs, goes on long runs, but also has the personality that can be marketed, the personality that gets in commercial, the personality that gets a lot of brand deals. Let me know who you guys think is next up as a young superstar who can take that over in the next 3 to 5 years, and that may even be pushing it out too long, but let me know what you guys think about that one. How are you going to let me know that? Well, we're going to get into that as we end the show. Make sure you're following the show at Bull Central Pod. There, you can interact with me on Twitter. If you want to follow me personally, it's at CEO Haize. That's CEO Haize. But if you're on the podcast side and not the YouTube side where I can easily see comments, and you want to get in touch with me, you can also send us an email at bullcentralpod@gmail.com. It's also down in the description box. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text and or voicemail to sound off on this topic or any other ones to be played on our Saturday mailbag episodes, the number to do so is 773-270-2799. But that is it for me for today. Unless some news drops, if news drops, I drop. But other than that, this has been Chicago Bulls Central. Thank you so much for being a part of the community and helping this grow. But like I like to end everything on, go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.